Good morning. My name is Carl Johann Schroeder, and this is my meetup called Inner Selves for Outer Mastery. This is where we learn to master the inner world, which is where reality really starts. The inner world, it's not actually invisible or inside of you or whatever. It is your world. It is the world around you. It's very interesting and subtle and complex how to successfully work with reality. You see, the challenge, and you need your higher self for this, and this is the topic of today's meetup, that Spirit gives me topics a few weeks now in advance. I've been running this meetup for over 7 years, and in general, I love to be a spiritual student and a spiritual teacher. I want to share how wonderful the universe is. I do a lot of work with understanding and working with the universe. And yes, it's amazing. I had a big spiritual awakening after college in which I tried to muster my confidence in the world after going through college. You know, the adolescent years, the early childhood years, people have various kinds of trauma, but it gets you down, and then you try to pick yourself up over and over. You pick yourself up, and we'll talk about how, later in life you understand the patterns of how you try to pick yourself up and start again, but in a way that doesn't work. You need to get to the patterns, the bottom line patterns, the repetitions that you make that are never going to work. That's that popular definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Little bit simplistic, but the idea there is, you've got enough information, you've got enough feedback from reality that some things are working and some things aren't working. Your higher self is the part of you that's going to help you really sort that out. Reality is actually, it's subtle and complex because it's kind of not really there. They talk about in classic traditions of religion and spirituality that reality is an illusion. Well, reality is a very useful illusion. It's not something that we just want to trash and throw out, which is what some people do. You need to realize that other people in your reality are exemplifying, modeling different approaches to life. So you don't want to immediately go with the idea. There's so many false ideas. One false idea is that you're somehow stuck in the same reality as other people and that they're going to do things to you. No, you can take a totally different approach, which is that other people are exemplifying different choices. Rather than you personally have to go through every possible choice and approach to life, how wonderful that you get this shortcut of seeing other people in the reality and seeing how they run their lives. And then you can decide, you can have a response to that, whether or not you want to go more in that direction or away from that direction. This is what your higher self will guide you to. Your higher self is the greater you outside of the reality set. And it is infinitely expanding from there. The point of life is to have a great human incarnated life, or whatever species you are, to have a great focused life, but also to understand that you are the entire universe. You are everything learning to apply itself to your current position. This is good news. It's a bit mind-boggling, but the point is that everything you see in the universe that you might desire, that you wish you had that ability or you wish you had those resources, you can have them. It is fundamentally you who is experiencing that over there. The question is how to get it over here into your life. So there are various approaches to understand how reality is a kind of illusion, but a very useful illusion, much like going to a movie with your friends. When you go to a movie in a theater, you watch this movie, you get really involved. That is your human self. That is your incarnated self having an experience, getting really deeply emotionally involved. So in some ways, movies, cinema, that's the highest technology that humanity has developed. A lot of people are really into machines and making things happen materially, pushing things around in the illusion. But actually, it's the ability to step back and model, experience different approaches to life. So it's not that movies are something new. It's the tradition of storytelling. It's the tradition of imagination. That imagination opens the doorway to new possibilities. It's just that in this modern age where we have these virtual reality experiences of cinema, and then, personal virtual realities of, you can put on goggles and whatever, you get closer and closer to a working, living example, a metaphor for how reality even works. That yes, reality is a subjective experience, an immersive experience that you need to understand in a context. And the context is one of, yes, you are trying to have the best possible life you can. Everyone is deep down good inside from this good intention of they want to have a good life. They don't necessarily know how to do that, though. This is where the challenge of life, and this is how the universe itself expands itself. You are the entire universe experiencing yourself from a certain perspective. So you actually commit to being this person in the world, on the earth, and you're going to make the best of it. And right away, as a little person, you're highly dependent. It's interesting how life starts out. You are actually this immensely, omnipotent, omniscient being of the entire universe. And then you squish yourself down into this little infant, this little baby who is totally dependent, doesn't understand how things work. This is the difference between theory and practice. You can know a lot of things in theory. You can get very excited. And, this is the issue of, you see people who are often fantasy, or, the love and lighters, they call them. People who are like, oh, life is wonderful, life is great. I know you from all my lifetimes, and we're going to have the best time ever, and this and that. They make up all these ideas of what's going to happen. And then as soon as, it doesn't start working out that way, people start disagreeing. It's like there's this little troubling aspect of everybody has their own free will. So you can make lots of ideas and plans for people, like, oh, we're going to do all these fantastic things together. And I remember in my 30s when, you go through various phases in life, but in my 30s, I started tapping into my other lifetimes. And that gave me a whole fresh perspective, oh my God, the reason why my life hasn't been working is because I just haven't been with the right people. So now that I'm starting to remember my other lifetimes, I'm going to find the people that I've been with in the lifetimes over and over. Those are going to be the people who are going to say yes to all my great plans for us, right? And then I started meeting, whether or not you get into past lives, other lifetimes, you do meet people that you click with, right? But then you find, we only go so far, that people become stepping stones. And you don't want to just use a person for how far you get. And that's what the narcissists do. That's a very negative approach to life, to just dehumanize people, dehumanize themselves. You have to dehumanize yourself first to dehumanize other people and treat them as objects. But yeah, some people use people just as objects to get something. No, you're a spiritual person. You understand. Love is the answer. Relationships are really important. But how the heck do I find my path through a world with all these people who have their own choices? And we may come together and agree for a while, and then we disagree. You don't want to cling to ideas of that should have worked out. So my little example there in my 30s, it was a totally magical, amazing time of starting to remember other lifetimes. And if you get into remembering other lifetimes, what you find is the deepest, most important patterns of your life, those are your soul. And those patterns show up in other lifetimes too. So I figure I'm going to meet these other people from my other lifetimes. But then I start realizing wait a minute, I already have, these significant people in my life. Many of them are in my other lifetimes. And so maybe I just need to meet new ones, so I meet new ones. And it's some of them are really positive, some are really negative. No, it turns out everywhere you look, and no matter how deep you go, you get the same issue of there's free will, that everyone is deep down good, trying to figure out how to have a great life. But if you have simplistic ideas of this is what's going to happen, from my perspective, from my experience, this would be positive, and this is what's got to happen, that's negative judgments. There are two kinds of judgments in life, and There's certain pivotal concepts in life. This is a really pivotal concept. A judgment in general is an opinion of what you would enjoy or not enjoy. But it's your opinion on something, whether it's good for you or not. A positive judgment is where you keep focusing on your ever-evolving, ever-refining ideas of what's good for you, what you like. And what you don't like, just let it go. So it's a very live and let live approach. I'm going to do the best way I can with my life. You do the best you can with your life. And I'm going to trust that it'll all fit together somehow. And it will. That's when you really tap into the fact that you are the entire universe, finding the best way to experience yourself from your position, and let everybody else do that too. That way, the greater universe, or even a multiverse in which you imagine everybody is their own universe, it will sort itself out. The people who belong together will find each other. The people who don't belong together will go their separate ways. That is the biggest picture possible, and we can never fully know at any one moment how it's all going to work out. And that's the anxiety people get. That's the insecurity people get. People, if something's not working in front of them, their mind may go to like, well, I've got to control a bigger picture. I've got to get the biggest possible plan. And that's when people become controlling. There is already a control system to the universe, a beautiful flowing control in which, as I said, everyone is a form of all of creation, figuring out how best to live their life from their perspective. Trust that. Let that work out. Let things sort themselves out. If you feel drawn to something, try it until you feel drawn to go in a different direction. Be grateful for your stepping stone steps. We're not looking to use people, but we are looking to let people go when we no longer fit with them. But always be grateful. Always be grateful. Gratitude is incredibly important and very much something you will feel on that path of the positive judgments, of looking for what works for you and letting go what doesn't work for you. You will feel grateful. And it's a deep gratitude. It's not just like, oh, this person came and went and I learned something and I have to remind myself of that. No, there are deeper secrets to the universe. And one is that everything is here and now. Everything is simultaneous. We build a chronology of our lives, and it's in that chronology where we bring in certain elements to experience next, and we create a logic. This led to that for this reason. That is how the universe, as a form of, as you as the universe, decide a story, build a story. How does my life work? But the fact is, everything is simultaneous. Everything already exists all at once. So they've discovered that in physics. And, Einstein, 1905, over 100 years ago, discovered that the only way you can really make the speed of light in various observations is that time and space are interlinked. It's all here now. There's no past, present, and future that are separate. There's no present moment. People get very sort of what's the word for it? Very solipsistic, very focused on themselves, very self-absorbed in the sense of they think, well, my present moment is the present moment. And okay, there's an entire world out there, but they're all existing in my present moment. No, actually, everything in every moment always exists, always will exist, always has existed. You're looking to piece together a journey through the universe that works for you. There are plenty of places you don't have to go. So it's really, you want to see the universe, all time and space, every possibility as this giant map. And this gets a little mind-boggling. Every possibility exists. It's kind of comic book sci-fi. The difference is, we talked about the multiverse last week. The difference is that in various multiverse fantasies where they use the multiverse idea to reboot a story. It's like, okay, went down that story path and the story ended happily or sad. But what if we get to a parallel universe where now there's an evil hero or a heroic villain or whatever? And it's like, oh, reboot the story. That is what the multiverse does. It reboots the story of your life, but in much more subtle, gentle ways, because you don't want to live a comic book where, crazy, threatening things are always happening and everybody's pretending they're invincible. You're not invincible. It's very important to be vulnerable in life. Real power is vulnerable. You have real power. And you've probably noticed if you don't properly manage your life, you can suddenly feel very weak. Your power can be drained from you very quickly if when you just have the wrong approach to things. It's kind of mysterious that way. It's like, gosh, I was feeling really great one minute, but then I had this memory of trauma and I sort of, oh yeah, that's the way things are, and boom, I got depressed. I can't even function anymore. I can't do the things that I was going to do. So this is the vulnerability of the real power that you have. You are an incredibly powerful being, and things can turn on a dime. Things can change very quickly if you don't manage your energies correctly. What to do next, what to believe next, what to choose next. And this is where your higher self can come in. Your higher self is the greater you from that entire universe. That is, you are trying to condense yourself to have the best life with all the principles of life itself in your life. Well, your higher self is the greater you who can see you doing that. The thing is, this greater you doesn't have your particular experience perspective. It's really interesting how there are different levels of consciousness. So there's a very focused, very vulnerable human you who is in the movie. It's a kind of movie, but it's an avatar. It's real when you're in this experience. Maybe it's not so real that you're stuck with it forever. Maybe you can expand your mind with ideas of a multiverse. There could be entirely different parallel sets of reality. And, another nod to like fiction and fantasy, it's like, okay, the multiverse is in a lot of comic books and stuff, but there's always some gadget, right? There's always some magical machine to press the button to go into another version of the universe, or something happened, now this person has this ability. But the real multiverse, the real universe that is you always have this ability. This is actually how you even experience your life, that you are continually switching parallel universes. It's just that most people keep their parallel universes about the same. So day to day, they have the same problems, and day to day, they have the same dysfunctional reaction to the problems. But as you learn from your higher self, be guided, that there is this greater perspective, you can see the things that you do that are dysfunctional, and you can see the people that you don't really belong with. You can make deep, deep changes in how you approach your life. You're on the spiritual path. You know what it's like when you're like, aha, you can reframe things and your entire life can change. That is magical and amazing, and it's true. And what changes is not that you change the world you're in. You don't force other people to change. This is one of the fundamental negative false assumptions that, all these do-gooding people, it's like, well, I've just got to convince other people to change. I got to make other people change their choices. Even if I'm just focused on my own life, I got to convince you to do the things I want to do with you because it would be so great, right? Well, maybe they have the different idea of things. The fact is that the universe, the multiverse, is constantly splitting, constantly bifurcating from each person's perspective. And the people who journey a while together, they are constantly creating a new universe from their perspective. It's just the universes fit together. Every possibility exists. So that when you meet somebody who agrees with you and you want to have a journey with them, you want to share the journey, they are still in their own universe and you're in yours, but you are creating the experience of a parallel universe in which you function well together. Until you don't. Let people go. The most important thing is to let people have their free will. And getting back to what I was saying earlier about positive judgments, two kinds of judgments, two kinds of opinion on what should happen, what would be good for you. The positive judgments is where you live and let live. You focus on your continually evolving, your continually refining idea of what's good for you. And as I said, you can allow other people to exist as examples of choices. Ooh, I don't have to go down that path and wonder, what will happen if I become a really nasty narcissist who just treats people as objects to, amass more money and power? Ooh, I don't have to go down that path. I can see people who do that. Well, I definitely don't want to do that. You may still do it a little bit just to get the personal experience of what it's like to be in that position. But you can definitely, you can taste, you can dip your toe into the waters of different life directions, and then you can relate to the people who are extreme examples of that life direction. And then on that basis, a combination of theory of seeing a person out there and your own experience, you can then make a powerful decision with your higher self's guidance of what to change in your life. So this process of refining your choices, always focusing on your choices and learning more about how it can be safe to allow radical free will. Let other people choose whatever is right, whatever seems right for them. Let them choose, because I'm going to trust that the greater universe, the greater multiverse, the greater creation, infinite, it's just unimaginable, it will keep sorting itself out. So the other kind of judgment, though, is the negative judgment. And this is what everyone's reacting to. This is where you not only have an opinion of what's right for you, but you base your opinion on something at some moment. That was good for me. I had a good time, and it should never change. Everybody should do this. I should always do this. This is the ticket. This is the key. That's control. When you don't allow a continual evolving of your choices, of your experiences. And so the negative judgments, that's when people talk about when they say, you're so judging, you're judging me, I feel judged. And people run away from religions that judge them, and then they run toward religions that judge other people the way they want to judge other people. It's funny, right? You see all these people sort themselves into tribes, and every tribe likes to think that like we're the right people and everybody else is just wrong. And if everybody just did it our way, it would be a great world. And then it's like, well, don't you see everybody's thinking that? Your enemy is thinking that of you. It's like there has to be some kind of higher level, new way of doing things, which is the positive judgments. You let the universe sort things out, focus on what's right for you. So the negative judgments, that's the hurtful judging. That's where you have an opinion on what's good, but you also attach lots of rewards and punishments and controls to that. You make it a law. People love laws, right? Society is like constantly like law of this, law of that, law of attraction, as if just making it a law will force it to be what everyone will do. No, there are no laws in creation. There are principles on how creation works, but it's not a law. You can break the law anytime you want. This is what people need to understand. This is that positive judgment direction where I'm going to let people do whatever they want to do. It may not be good for them. It may not be good for me. It may not be good for anyone. They will get their consequences. The universe will keep sorting people out, including sorting people by their choices and their consequences. If somebody is choosing to be a dominating son of a so-and-so, it's like, then let them, and the universe will sort them into a different reality. You don't have to experience them. What keeps you stuck with problematic people is your own problematic response to them. The judgment, the judging, the judgmentalism, the negative judging, where people decide what should happen, and anybody who doesn't do that is wrong, and that's when you get the rewards and punishments. And if you're a nice person, you're like, I just want to reward, I just want to incentivize. How can I get you to see things my way? And I can explain, I can offer all kinds of incentives, whatever. What do you do when people still don't want to play by the nicest rules? Human civilization has reached a real peak where this is why we're on the brink. Don't worry, it's not actually that the world has to end. It's that the old paradigms have to end. We're on the brink of realizing there are certain ways of running the world which don't work, and there are certain ways that do work. If you work with nature, nature rebounds very quickly. If you work with higher spiritual principles, your whole life can shift and new opportunities come, and you clear up your emotions. You're able to do things you couldn't do before. That's real healing. Real healing, deep healing, is you actually go into a different timeline. You become a slightly different person. You become more of the real you, a better you. So you are from then on. People who do temporary healing, where, people who go to the same healer week after week, the problem came back. Well, the problem comes back because you're still living the same way, you're still making the same choices, you're going to get the same consequences. Remember, the universe does have rules, the way things work, but you can break those rules. There are no punishments. The incentive is to be yourself. The universe isn't going to reward you for doing things right. You are your own reward. You get to clear up your energy. You become more functional, more happy. You meet the right people, the right situation. You are your own reward. You want to live the right way, to have a wonderful life. And then the universe has no punishments if you want to break the rules. Then, because you are your own punishment. You look at people who are really, really nasty, and the simple false belief systems will say oh, but they're winning, they're so happy, they have a pile of money and they can take vacations in the best parts of the world while the rest of the world is in poverty and dying. They can still hang out in their yacht in the only vacation places left, whatever. It's oh, they're so happy. No, they're not happy. They're miserable. You are your own reward, and you are your own punishment, depending on your own choices, which don't have to follow the rules. You will simply get the consequences of being you. So you want to go with the direction of positive judgments, of figuring out what's right for you, and let the universe sort out everything else so everybody else can figure out what's right for them. And if they make mistakes, they'll get the consequences, and they'll figure out what to change. You don't want to go the route of the negative judgments of well, the universe is a mess, so I have to control things, or the world is a mess, or this other person is disagreeing with me. It's all about the control. So the negative judgments, that's when you feel attacked, that's when you feel criticized, that's when you feel threatened, that's when you go into those survival reactions we've talked about. The 4 survival reactions, again, briefly, it's appease, freeze, flight, and fight. And starting bottom up, fight is when you kind of grit your teeth and I'm going to go in here, I'm going to make it work. And maybe, if you're a really nasty person and you're focused on killing your enemies, making it work is you're going to go to war, you're going to go to battle. But fight is also just when you kind of oh gosh, I can't avoid this anymore. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to force it. I'm going to make it work. Any kind of forcing, that's the fight. The real universe is going to just flow. You're in a flowing joy with nature. Things just work out naturally. So if you're struggling, you're in the fight, and you may have learned from your parents and society that that's the way to do it. Struggle, be a hero, really put out fires constantly. But you'll notice that you never stop putting out fires, and the same struggles, they never go away. I've spent my life. The positive side is, yes, I really am a spiritual teacher. I really love learning how the universe works. The negative side of my life is trying to fix things, trying to convince people, I've learned, I don't do negative judgments anymore. Just let people do whatever the heck they want. If I have a survival reaction to them, I will manage my survival reaction. So that fight level, that's where we think we have to force things, and we can feel like a hero, right? It can be very exciting. You get adrenaline, you get rewarded by society. People look at you, oh, you're working really hard. You're really making that stuff happen. You're really turning things around. But if you're struggling, you're not turning things around. That's just not how the real universe flows and works. Nature, Taoism is so inspired by the flow of nature, the flow of water. Nature will find the path of least resistance. And what's wonderful is you have to understand, this would be one of the fundamental rules of the universe, that if you're out of tune with the universe, you will get into situations where you're convinced, look, I have to struggle, I have to fight, or I will die. There is no good solution here. That's never true. The universe always builds in, because you are the universe that always exists. There will be a positive way through this situation, like water finding its way over a landscape. It will seek the easiest path, but it will flow. You cannot stop water. I have a little water damage to deal with in my house, and it's you can't stop water. It's going to go somewhere, okay? It doesn't disappear. So that's the kind of like inevitable success you want to tap into. And that's kind of what your higher self is about. Your higher self is like this, the inevitability of you find your way, it will work. You have a solution that's guaranteed. So fight, struggle, any kind of like gritting, working hard, I'm going to get through this and then things will be good. Any kind of reward on the other side of some kind of, punishment, of taking your punishment, no, that is all the fight level. Then there's the flight level, kind of a step up from that. In a sense, the flight is where, look, I'm not going to fight. I don't want a struggling life. I don't want an awful life. I also have no idea how to work with these people, work with this situation. I'm just going to run away. And flight can be worth trying sometimes. It's like, yeah, maybe like just need to get away from this situation. Fight can be worth trying. It's just as soon as you start feeling like, oh, this is the same thing over and over, it's never going to change. That's that definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. When you start realizing, like, I'm in the fight struggle mode, and struggle is its own way of being, I don't want to struggle, or in the flight mode, I realize, like, this isn't just about me running away from one bad relationship. Darn it, I get the same problems over and over. Like I quit this job because I hated it, I blamed them, and then I start the next job. Maybe it's a little different, a little better, but the same mentality comes up in me. When you notice the same things come up in you, don't run from that. A lot of people are going to run from themselves, like go to those negative judgments. No, I'm perfect, you're not, you need to change. No, you want to have that humility, and you do. You have the humility of being on the spiritual path, realizing there are things I need to change in me. So when you change enough in yourself that you aren't always running away from your problems, but then the same problems keep showing up elsewhere, you realize I can't run anymore. And then the higher level of a dysfunctional survival reaction is freeze. Freeze is when you're just paralyzed. You realize, like, I can't do this anymore. I can't play this game anymore. This is where people they give up on the world. And you want to be careful how you give up on the world, because you can easily go to the negative side and just, like a lot of people do, that's it. The world is bad. I got to get out of here. Maybe I got to do a few good deeds to please God so that I never have to come back here again. No, a real important secret to life is to realize, like, whatever your first reaction is, okay, whether it's positive or negative, okay, that's one way to use the situation. Now stretch your mind. Imagine there is the other way to use this situation. Like if I see something that's really fun, really wonderful, oh my God, it really is. You're not in fantasy. You try it, you have a great time. Consider, I could have had a miserable time with that. There is a negative way to use that wonderful situation. Thank goodness I found the positive way. But be mindful of, there is a negative way. I could have been my old self who's, really bitter, quick to blame, everybody should do it my way. Thank goodness I've matured. But you want to enjoy the contrast. You want to see how the ways in which you've grown. Some people might think, oh, that's just being negative. Don't think about any of the problems, just thank goodness you had a good time. No, true positive energy sees the positive and the negative. This is another important concept. So one concept was to let everything have a positive and a negative side. So whatever your first reaction is, be willing to see the other side, because then you can become aware of both ways of using it. This is what truly empowers you. This is what puts you in touch with your higher self, because your higher self is the you who is always seeing all possibilities. And from that neutral, empowered position of seeing all possibilities, choose the one that's best for you, with that sense of positive judgments. I'm not forcing this on everyone else, but I'm going to choose the direction that I prefer. The idea of preference is so powerful, that you have preference is about comparing. I'm very calm. I'm able to see that, oh, I could react badly to this situation, or I could react positively to this situation. Maybe the situation isn't good for me. I'm not going to stay long, but with a positive response, I could actually change and move on. The negative reaction is going to keep you stuck. That is why so many people feel stuck in the world with dangerous situations, because they're having some kind of negative reaction. So I was saying the fight, the flight, the freeze is when you feel paralyzed. You realize, I can't go on this way anymore. and you may be tempted to check out, just notice, oh, those would be the negative responses to my paralysis, that thinking like, well, other people keep fighting and flighting and whatever, functioning, I'm so bad. No, I'm not so bad. When you get to a point of realizing like, this situation doesn't work for me, there's nothing I can do here, I need to change in a more fundamental, deep way, you will feel that paralysis. And then the deepest or highest level of the survival reactions is the appease. You will get back to a point of realizing like, oh, wait a minute, there's a really deep choice I made so long ago, I kind of forgot it. But that choice, that's the one that put me down a path of dysfunction. So yeah, maybe everyone else is still playing out their fantasies of, I can control other people, I can make other people choose the right thing. But I realized at some point, yeah, that's domination, that's control, that's forcing my will on others, that's negative judgment. No, everybody has to have their own free will. Then I will let the greater universe, the greater creation, the source of all life, sort them out, because I want to be sorted. The only way you're going to be free to go to where you belong to thrive is that you let everybody else go where they belong. As long as you are in any way focusing on, I've got to make this person do this, I've got to make this situation do this, then you're stuck with it. You are mentally putting yourself in there and trying to fight it, and then you'll flee from it, and then you'll be paralyzed, and finally you get to that appeasement. That's where you're like, I'm going along with an assumption because I think that it will get me to a good place. Well, there are a lot of assumptions, generalizations, belief systems. It's all about the belief systems, your assumptions of how life works, the laws you set for yourself that don't work. Remember, the universe, the true source of life, has no laws of, punishment or reward. You can do whatever you want. There are certain ways that life works. You will be your own worst enemy. You will be your own punishment, or you'll be your own reward. Your life will be great when you work with the universe. So you watch for those survival reactions. You will get back to the early fundamental assumptions that basically put you down a path of a dead end. At some point, your life is dead ending because you made a choice that doesn't work with the greater universe. And that's what's going on in the world today. It's scary, but the world is dead ending. We can't go on this way anymore. The ecosystem is collapsing as things get stressful, dictators rise, herds of people flock behind somebody who's quick to blame the bad guys, start another war. They're gathering all the treasure and scavenging and laughing all the way to the bank, but the bank is being destroyed too. It's like the whole world is ending. What's ending is the old paradigm. All you have to do is get to your fundamental flawed paradigms, your generalizations that go all the way back to how the universe really works. When you're going to have to work through your levels of survival reactions, and you will encounter the times of panic and anxiety. There are two basic forms of fear. So fear, and just to be clear, this is all guidance from my higher self, as well as what I found through other people, like other channeled teachers who they resonate for me. Anything that works for you in life, your higher self brought it to you. You are always in the care of your higher self. Your higher self is the greater intelligence of you around you that is trying to guide you from within the set. But by definition, it has to be outside the set to give you guidance from outside the set. You're inside the set. So your higher self knows things that you don't know. Let it tell you. But you also know things that your higher self doesn't know. How is that possible? Something that's omniscient, omnipresent, has all the solutions I will never, ever need. What does it not know? It doesn't know your personal experience. It doesn't know how to have the best relationship with you. See, a relationship involves both parties, right? You have to have a relationship with God. God is Great Spirit, Creator, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, the greater universe. Your relationship is your relationship. The greater universe can't just do things for you. You are a conscious being. You have to be involved personally with it. So building your relationship with your higher self is the most important skill there is, truly, because your higher self knows how the universe works, knows how life works. Your higher self can see all the choices you're making, the ones that work with the universe so you get good consequences, the ones that don't work with the universe, you get the bad consequences. But it's not rewards and punishment. Your higher self is the one who will help you feel good about yourself so that you can just have that calm view of like, oh, I see, there were negative ways to do this and positive ways to do this. And I can be very calmly seeing from the higher positive perspective. True positive sees both the positive and negative and then can calmly choose. This is why the Buddha talked about the middle way. The quick recap. So the Buddha, the idea of the Buddha was that he was a prince, and he was very privileged inside of his, the castle and all, and his family had prophecies that their son would be truly great. He would set the world free. So they were going to give him all the luxuries, and he was, fed well and all the riches and everything. But one day he looked outside of the palace walls, and he saw a beggar, and he saw people suffering. And this is emotional for me, because this is how I feel about the world. You see people suffering, you want to change it. So the Buddha said, I don't care about my riches anymore. If the prophecy is true that I can help make the world a better place, then I got to get out there and understand, why are these people suffering? So the Buddha walked away from his princely life, much to the chagrin of his parents and everyone. But the wisest one said, hey, maybe this is the prophecy. Maybe this is how he makes the world a better place. So the Buddha went down with the suffering people, and he spent some time with them, and he ended up becoming the opposite extreme, the opposite of someone who's a prince and royalty and everything. He became this wandering beggar. And so he went that extreme of like, I'm going to give away everything. I'm going to serve everybody. I'm going to do everything I can for others. And he denied himself, and he deprived himself, and he reached a point, the legend says, the Buddha reached a point of like, he was about to die. He was starving. He needed drink. He needed food. And this little girl came to him and brought him food and water that refreshed him enough that he was able to have a revelation. And he realized like, life is not about either extreme of like riches or poverty, serve yourself or serve others, the denial or the indulgence. It's got to be a middle way. And the thing is, that middle way is very dynamic. It's like you don't always know what to do next. It's very humbling, like the Buddha being on the verge of dying from starvation, and just a little girl is like, you want some food? And it's like, in that moment, she's embodying the universe itself. But then she unaligns and she becomes just a little girl, and the Buddha is like, oh my God, the middle way. And the little girl is like, okay, I'm glad my bread helped you. This is the thing. It's like, you have a higher self, you have a greater universe. Other people in your world, others in the situations, they will come in and out of alignment. They will serve your higher self for you and bring you exactly what you needed. Your higher self has exactly what you need and will tune you into that at the deepest levels. But if you stay at the shallow human level in those survival reactions focused on like, how can I make the world work? You won't get the depths of your higher self's guidance for you. You will instead get some shallow level of like, oh, like what if the Buddha said, oh, little girl, you brought me some food. You're going to be my slave from now on. You're going to bring me food from whenever I'm hungry. The little girl would be like, no, I'm not, you crazy, weird stranger. Like, I'm getting out of here. It's like, this is the thing. The middle way is very vulnerable, very fluid, very dynamic. You have to focus on the positive judging. There are no laws with rewards and punishments in the negative judging. There's no rule system that will make everything work all the time. It's a continually evolving path of figuring out the extremes and being able to see all the options, the positive and the negative, and the denial and the indulgence and the this and that, and being able to choose what is my next step that's most reasonable, most beneficial for me. It helps me without hurting anyone else. As the Dalai Lama says, if you can't help people, at least don't hurt them. That can be your measure of What's the right thing to do? At least don't hurt them. Well, of course, then you quickly run into people who then are trying to manipulate you. Ouch, you're hurting me. You were supposed to do this for me. Ouch, you're hurting me. It's like your higher self will guide you to feel like, okay, that person has their own issues of trying to control by victimhood. There are different ways to control. You can control by being a bully. Yeah, I'm going to hurt you if you don't. I'm bigger and strong. I'm going to hurt you if you don't do what I say. But you can also control by victimhood. I'm going to hurt your self-esteem. I'm going to tell you what a bad person you are if you don't do this for me. It's like, no, it's like your higher self. You need your higher self because you as a human being cannot sort out through these subtleties. You as a well-intentioned human being, like I was for much of my life, just trying to help people, but I get sucked into situations where people are manipulating me, manipulating from victimhood, making me feel bad. I've had so many situations where I just try to help someone and they say, you made it worse. You triggered you better stay here. You better fix everything. It's like, I think you triggered yourself. I swear to God, I had good feeling. I had good intentions. I'm sorry if I triggered something, but then don't stay and try to fix it. It's theirs to fix. You just do your best. You need your higher self to guide you. You need your higher self to guide you into what's the next step to take that is that middle way, that awareness of the possibilities, and then calmly, not reactively, not from survival reactions, having to do something, fight, flight, freeze, appease, but calmly seeing, of the various options and the various ways that I could react, this is the best thing for me to do. Your higher self, you need to be with your higher self. You may not have your higher self so consciously communicating that, it's a booming voice from the heavens. Do this. Your higher self doesn't want to do that because then you'd just be obeying the booming voice. You'd be like, a lot of people fear God. It's like, oh my God, God told me to do this. And they actually end up following negative entities. You're going to have a lot of negative thoughts that impersonate God, that tell you like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then a lot of people are obeying that, thinking that's God. It's like, your higher self is not going to be bossy that way. Your higher self is going to be a gentle guidance from inside of you that will guide you to the right thing to do next. And then how long to do the right thing, how far to take it. Again, you will need your higher self because otherwise all the judgments, all the reactions, survival reactions, you're going to keep doing something. If you find something good, you're not going to want to let it go as an insecure human being who's not spiritually guided. You're going to want to I found a good thing. Don't ever take it away from me. I'm going to keep doing this. And that's it. That's why you see a world full of people doing some really dysfunctional things. It's very easy from our position, from our issues to say, oh yeah, that person shouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Being a dictator or, just being a greedy son of a bitch, I'll do anything to steal from people. It's like, well, I don't do that. Yeah, congratulations. You don't do the things that are obviously negative. Good. Feel good about yourself. But don't build your self-esteem on putting them down because then you start noticing you're hiding from your issues. You're going to have some issues. As long as you're in a world where you're seeing some really negative people and you're reacting to them, you're scared of them in any way, fear is the indicator. If you have any fear of something, it means you need to work through it. Not that it's going to happen to you. Fear is an indication of a false belief, some choice that doesn't work for you. Fear is, that's what I started saying earlier about fear, and this is guided material, this is channel material. My own higher self and the higher selves of others and channeled teachers. You found yourself here today to this meeting. Your higher self is guiding you. Ask your higher self, of all the things Carl talks about, what is the most important thing for me to get? Let yourself shift at the deepest levels so that you're not just reacting at a surface level. Yeah, the world is full of people who will bring you things and then take away things and whatever. You need to have at the deepest levels an understanding of why that was good for you. So that whole middle way of the Buddha, I'm not going to go the extremes. I'm going to do the next thing that's right for me. But that is incredibly sensitive and vulnerable because it changes everything. Every time you take the right step, everything shifts. This is when you notice, Gosh, I was feeling really good a minute ago. Now I'm really depressed. What happened? Because you took a step in the wrong direction. It changes everything. Or vice versa. It's like, oh, I was really depressed. And then I realized, like, oh, I could change this. I don't have to stay with those people. I could approach it a different way, reframe the problem. Suddenly I feel good. Why do I feel good? Because everything changes. The whole universe changes when you change, when you shift inside. And the whole universe will not change when you're stuck, and the universe will keep going in the same direction. That's the survival reactions. You're not actually changing anything. The universe is continuing in the same direction, and you're reacting with it. The response is to call in your higher self. So I'm going to wrap this up here. The point is, what do you need your higher self for? Yeah, let me kind of summarize here. What do you need your higher self for? Your higher self will point you in the next step that's right for you to do, and tell you also when you're done with that step, because, hey, you're in a new position, everything has changed, you can see around a corner, you can see the next different thing to do. Life can actually be very illogical, irrational, but emotionally guided and satisfying this way, where you're willing to take a zigzag pattern. Just let yourself be guided. What's the next thing to do? Oh, that shifted everything. Treasure the deep shifts. Your higher self will help you to hold on to and appreciate the deepest changes you make. That's the level of choice where you really are the entire universe, just choosing for yourself. Choice alone can do everything. What? Don't I have to make things happen? Don't I have to do this and that? Choice alone, but then choice takes action. The empowered people in the world are the people who are coming from a deep choice and then taking action in the world. They're not concerned about, hey, is my, going to a protest movement, is that going to lead to change in the government? No, a person who's coming from their deep choice, just to even go to the protest movement, that expresses my choice, that involves my choice. I get to celebrate more of my choice. Choice is all you need, but choice needs to take action in the world. That's where your higher self guides you to which action to take, how far to take it, when to let it go, because the goal was not to change the world around you. The goal was to change you at the deepest levels of choice. That's when you shift, and that's when you can experience more of your higher self, have more of the relationship, the conscious relationship. You benefit from each other, because your higher self doesn't know what it's like to be where you are, but you don't know what it's like to be where your higher self is. The two of you need to put yourself together, and there are many gradations of being together in between. So that's what the higher self is for. That's how the higher self can help you to stay on track in life, get out of the ruts when you get stuck, and stay in a flow of the universe works most beautifully. You will become your own reward, or if you make mistakes, your life becomes your own punishment. You don't have to do what other people tell you to do. You don't have to tell them what to do. Just find your way, like flowing water in Taoism. Just water will find its way. That's my inspired introduction.